It is now 13 minutes past midnight. I am Roy Michaels, the coldest host on late night radio, and I welcome you to the first, only, and number one late night paranormal talk show right here on 91.9 FM WMEB, Orono, Maine. If this is your first time tuning in, you may ask yourself, what is this mystery hour business about? Well, friend, that's the point, but let me tell you. The Mystery Hour is a voyage into the unknown, a trek into the most mysterious aspects of our universe, and the darkest corners of the human imagination. Normally, we start the show at midnight, but tonight it is break right here at the University of Maine, and we were locked out. Thankfully, Officers Robitaille and Officer Bergdahl were able to let us in and save the day. So, thank them for this episode. It's dedicated to them. And we get back to the mission statement of the Mystery Hour. I know it does seem like a task too big for just one mere Roy Michaels, but thankfully I've assembled a team of several individuals ranging from various interests and backgrounds, but are ultimately just some dudes who like to talk about ghosts and stuff. We've got Keith, ghoul expert.
Hello.
Connor, president and only member of the Paranormal Truth Society.
Please join.
Evan Lane, our historian-in-chief.
How's it going, everybody?
Joseph, paranormal journalist.
Hello.
And Robbie, our wild man. Who will be kicking off tonight's topic. Take it away, Rob.
All right. Over the next hour, our elite group will discuss the wicked and the weird. The stories told through the ages of woodland creatures. The Sasquatch, the witches, the werewolves, the Wendigo, among others. Yes, it's a crazy dark world of beasts out there. But we're here to shine the light on the mysteries. I have a personal story to share with everybody. This happened to me on during the summer of 2014. I found myself comfortably laying in a small tent, reading a Dan Brown novel. I was one of 3 wilderness guides who were in the process of showing 22 Chinese campers the wonders of the Maine woods. The area we were camping at required us to canoe over to it. And besides bushwhacking, this was the only way to access the site. So I set up my tent about 50 yards away from everybody else. I was only about 10 minutes into my book when I heard one of the eeriest sounds that I've ever heard in the woods. If anybody who is listening can solve this mystery, please call in to let me know, because I've done extensive research to try and discover the origin of this sound. I was laying when I heard it, about 100 to 200 yards away. What sounded like a small girl or woman crying quietly, then abruptly turning into giggling. Like whatever it was experiencing euphoria. Then it turned into crying again, and then moaning. My initial thought was that the noise was coming from one of the campers. One of them could have been in trouble. At the very least, something was definitely off. I exploded out of my tent and went to check on my campers. After counting all of them, it became apparent they were all there, sleeping in their tents. That was the moment where I realized something was out there. Something I had never heard before. Something foreign. I went back to my tent, sat on the ground in front of it, and listened. To my disbelief, the sound was still there. I listened to the moaning / laughing / crying for a good 5 minutes until I felt sure that it was going to go away. That wasn't going to go away. Then I went to wake up my co-counselors. They were none too happy about being woken up, but the serious tone of my voice compelled them to get up and listen. When we got to my tent, it was silent. Nothing. My coworkers were unhappy and blamed it on foxes. I've heard the infamous fox yell, and I know for a fact that was not what I heard that night. It stayed silent for a while, but about 30 minutes later, I heard it again. The same strange noise. And I ran to my counselor's tent and brought them. To this day, I have no idea what that noise was. The sound of a small, female-sounding creature crying, moaning, giggling in the woods, in the Maine woods. If I could get some input here from our experts, that would be great.
Could you replicate the noise that the small female was making?
I could do my best, sir.
All right.
It was a little bit like this. Except for scarier, much scarier.
Wow. That's chilling stuff.
Yeah, it was.
Should we quickly go over all of the woodland critters there are of paranormal descent, obviously?
Well, I think we might save that until after our first break, which is coming up pretty soon, because we just started. But I do have some questions for you, Robert, about your story.
Yeah.
At any point while hearing the sound, did you feel compelled to go out into the wood to investigate it?
I was actually very compelled to go out into the woods. The reason why I didn't was because it was about 200. It sounded about 200 yards through deep brush, off towards actually where the Appalachian Trail ran past our campsite. And it was about 1 a.m. when I heard this noise, and I couldn't. I just didn't do it.
If you had a time machine, would you go back to that moment to investigate the sound for the purpose of the show?
Absolutely. I curse every day that I didn't go check that sound out.
Yes, Joseph?
Well, Robbie, I think you actually made the right choice. I think it could have been some sort of evil creature trying to lure people away from their campsites to do who knows what to them.
Well, that is a very common thread in most woodland creatures that we'll find out after the break, but unfortunately it's 20 past the hour, and I know we just got here, but it's time for us to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Your coughs are extremely loud. As well as mine, they couldn't handle it.
We're good.
Changed. Well, it's time to put it back on your list. Innovative things are happening in teaching today, and you can be a part of it.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
My suit can still make an impression.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill, it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. Brought to you by Goodwill.
I laughed so hard, but I
Adopt US Kids presents.
you laugh so hard.
Choice Parenting.
You accidentally cut your daughter's back on infant. Do you line things up a centimeter from her hairline?
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
No. Sweatbands are so hot right now. Everyone's wearing them. Like that basketball player. That other basketball player.
B. Get spiritual.
Mom, where did all the mirrors go?
I didn't know if you'd get it.
Perfection could never capture our true selves. Beauty is within.
C. Look on the bright side.
Less time blow drying, more time texting.
Or D. Show empathy.
I know it's stressful, but
Mom, you really don't have
Ta-da! Twinsies.
I kinda love it.
we should rock off drops.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org/ME. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hello. We are back. You're listening to the Mystery Hour on 91.9 FM, Orono, Maine. I'm Roy Michaels. Tonight on the Mystery Hour, we are talking about woodland creatures. And I think to kick off our discussion, I've prepared a quiz for all of you. The name of this game is called Guess That Monster.
Alright.
And the rules are very simple. I'm going to describe several woodland creatures to you, and you will have to guess them.
Succinct title.
Any questions?
Proceed.
Alright. Our first creature is big, furry, and interdimensional.
Could I take that one?
Sure.
I believe that's a Sasquatch.
You are correct.
Aces.
Let me provide some context to the audience here. A source of great conflict in the paranormal world is the Sasquatch and Sasquatch dichotomy. According to the Sasquatch theory, Bigfoot is not merely a creature of flesh and blood, but instead an interdimensional entity that walks between universes. Ronan Goglin, Irish researcher and author, is a supporter of the Sasquatch theory and believes that Bigfoot makes use of wormholes, and further notes that many Bigfoot sightings are linked with UFO occurrences, which supports an extraterrestrial connection as well. Yes, Robert?
I'd like to come in with a skeptical idea on that. I'm not so sure I buy into that. Is there evidence that actually supports this?
Well, I mean, you're either a Sasquatch guy or a Sasquatch guy. You can't be both. And unfortunately for both categories, there's very limited evidence. The fact that Sasquatch is a very elusive creature could support both the fact that it's very sneaky and well adapted to its habitat, but also leaves Earth and goes into a different universe where it remains hidden. Yes, Connor?
I have to disagree, I'm going to be honest. I actually wrote the Sasquatch-Sasquatch dichotomy, and you can believe in both. They're actually different creatures with just similar characteristics.
And what characteristics do they share?
Fur, they're bipedal. They both have a pretty smelly kind of rank cloud that follows them around.
Sure, well, that could be like a residue oozing from a wormhole. Maybe the smell of some sort of mothball planet coming into the human realm.
That could definitely it. I know there's a lot of mothball planets out there.
I mean, I'm sorry, Robert. You were saying?
Well, all right. I'm a little bit more convinced now. I didn't mean to derail your quiz, though.
Well, I just want to know if we are the official standpoint of the Mystery Hour on this very important issue. Are we Sasquatch guys or Sasquatch guys? Yes, Keith.
All right, so for this survey or this poll or, whatever sightings happen to coincide with the UFOs and the Sasquatches, do you have any specifics on this source? I guess, is it just more likely that people who report Sasquatches are more likely to report that they also saw a UFO? Or are we talking about, the same area has accumulated a large sighting of both?
Well, I think you do make a very good point. I would say that someone who is inclined to report a Sasquatch sighting is also more apt to report a UFO sighting. But when you take the data, the information, and you put it into some sort of map program, you can correlate the geographic locations and see that the Sasquatch often occurs in popular UFO sites as well.
Very interesting.
And furthermore, going back to the Sasquatch theory, the Sasquatch could use the UFO to travel through the wormholes. I mean, he can't just waltz through a wormhole. He'd be torn apart.
Yes, that would be ridiculous.
He needs some sort of vehicle.
Yeah, 7.
I just have to say, I'm not really positive about that because you mentioned the mapping part of the evidence, and I feel like a lot of UFO encounters occur in areas with greater populations, obviously, because there are more people there to report it. And therefore, they would also, possibly see a Sasquatch at the same time. You never know.
Yeah, I believe Connor has a counterpoint to your argument, Evan.
Well, I just wanted to talk about the vehicle situation with the wormholes. It's my theory that their bodies actually are the vehicles. If you've noticed, a lot of them have swollen bellies.
Oh.
And there could be a smaller creature within. The outside is just like a protective armor.
So you would say that this creature wears a much larger creature, perhaps, like as a Gundam suit to journey between realms.
Now, see, I'd buy that.
Well, that makes sense. I can get behind that one.
I think so. Actually, I think we have a small clip of what a Sasquatch or Sasquatch might sound like.
Ooh.
Which we could play. We went out and we got this clip a little bit earlier. I don't know if you want to spoil the surprise already, but
I think we might save it for just a little bit.
All right.
It's pretty scary stuff.
It is scary.
They need some warning.
Yeah, I want to get more comfortable before we bust out that
Understandable, you've been warned.
Terrifying piece of audio. All right, next creature. This creature originates from Wabanaki folklore and is a ghost that lives in swamps and makes mournful cries.
Is this a banshee?
Incorrect.
Could you replicate one of these mournful cries?
No.
Is it a Wendigo by any chance?
It is not a Wendigo, but good guess. Would you like the next hint?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyone who follows their cries will often be lost in the swamp and killed. Yes, Connor?
Is it a ghoul?
It is not a ghoul. I believe Keith, our ghoul expert, could fill you in on that.
Yeah, ghouls. You'll find ghouls in graveyards, eating decaying flesh, stacking corpses, various other things. You're not going to find a ghoul in a swamp.
Good to know.
Yes, Robert?
Is it a Grindy Low?
It is not a Grindy Low, but I see where you're coming from. All right, next hint. The story of this creature in folklore functioned primarily as a boogeyman to keep children away from the swamp. I mean, you don't want your kids going off in the swamp alone.
It's actually pretty difficult.
It is very difficult.
This is a stumper for sure.
Fired.
I'm sorry?
What sort of experts are we?
I don't know.
How many more hints do you have?
Well, I'm going to move on to the last hint, and it's just one. This creature is sometimes malevolent, intentionally killing children. In other instances, this creature is a tragic figure who calls out the children out of genuine loneliness, only to accidentally kill them with, big hint here, her ghostly touch. Evan?
Ghostly touch? Is it a bog witch? I'm not positive
It's
about
very
this.
close. It is a she, and it lives in a swamp.
A sheet?
Like a female, Robbie.
A she.
Oh, okay.
It is a woman that lives in a swamp. Any guesses?
No.
All right, it is a swamp woman.
Oh.
Of course.
Yeah.
All
Why
right.
didn't we get
That's
that?
really a swamp woman?
That's truly a swamp woman.
Why didn't
Yes.
we get that?
Does that count?
All right, moving on.
How many points did we lose?
I think
A fair amount of points.
about 20.
Ooh.
That's all our points.
That's a lot.
We're at 0.
Uh-oh.
Ugh. Better step it up. All right. This creature is 7 to 10 feet tall. It's not interdimensional. It weighs 600 to 1,000 pounds. And it's covered in hair, and it's a humanoid creature.
Was that all the hints?
That was a master hint. Several hints combined into one great hint.
All right.
Well, that sounds like a Sasquatch to me.
And that is exactly right, Jason.
I would have to agree.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Maine has a pretty rich Sasquatch history.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm on my. I have a story for you, a short Sasquatch story.
Go right ahead.
One of the most prominent of strain of Sasquatch sightings is the Durham gorilla sightings. The totally awesome blog, Strange Maine, details the events. The gorilla sightings occurred in Durham, Maine, in July 1973. And the first to see it were some youngsters biking around, having a good time, but they saw something, and whatever it was big, hairy, and scary. A mom soon saw an ape creature sneaking around some bushes later. This resulted in about 30 police cars circling around Durham with orders to shoot and kill this ape creature. Throughout the week, several more sightings surfaced. Some saying they saw a bear, a chimp, a large dog, and even an orangutan. Adding to the intrigue, a costume store owner in Lewiston notified the police saying that a costume rented in early July had not been returned. I know what you're thinking of, walking around masquerading as a gorilla monster in the region where many people own firearms is a bad idea. But nevertheless, despite the best efforts of the police and people of Durham, the Durham gorilla sightings remains a mystery to this day. Now, in your lifetimes in the Pine Tree State, do you know anyone or have you seen personally a Sasquatch?
I know my father knows a man, but he didn't seem all there. Although obviously, if he believed in Sasquatch, he had there was something right with him.
Yeah, he was thinking on the right track at least.
Yeah. I never got a good story from him though, because like I said, he wasn't all there, and it was actually sort of difficult to understand the things he said. Yes, Connor?
Was he literally not all there? Like physically?
He actually was missing 2 fingers.
Oh, interesting.
I think that qualifies.
Yeah.
Yes, Robert?
Yeah, my father actually told me a story when I was younger about what he believes to be an encounter with Sasquatch.
Do tell.
Well, he was camping on Campobello Island with his grandparents, or his parents, my grandparents. And, well, apparently it was late at night, and he was in the camper, and he had to go to the bathroom. The only place to go to the bathroom was the outhouses, which were very scary, made out of wood, tucked into the woods, you know. So he went to the outhouse, did his business, and was just getting ready to go when he said he started hearing shuffling outside of the outhouse. Now this isn't a very strange occurrence, not in the woods, but he said the thing that really seemed off to him was the smell. He said it was the worst smell he had ever smelled before. And I know what you're thinking, he was in an outhouse, but it did not smell like the outhouse. And the smell came along with the shuffling. Apparently it smelled just like the most rancid man that hadn't showered ever in any lifetime. And he said he was terrified because he was pretty young. And he sat down on the toilet and he just stayed there, waited. And at one point, he said he saw a finger, one long, hairy finger, stick into the crack underneath the door and just try and fiddle with the little locks that you see on those outhouse doors. And he said that's when he made a noise, and it slipped away and it ran off.
Did the smell vanish?
The smell vanished, yeah.
Did your father make a noise, or was it the alleged creature?
My father made a noise when he saw it trying to enter the outhouse. That's what he says. He looks terrified every time he tells me the story.
Well, it's a truly terrifying story, Robert.
Do you think it's possible it was some sort of changeling or a skinwalker? Because besides Goatman, I don't think many people know what a changeling looks like.
I've never heard of changelings having rancid smell.
I guess you're right about that.
Yeah, that would be a first for me
Yeah, that would
as an outdoorsman.
debunked.
What about a Sasquatch changeling?
Do you mean a changeling that changed into a Sasquatch?
Exactly.
Or-
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not talking about a hybrid between a changeling and a
Well, that would be
Sasquatch.
interesting too.
That would be
Sorry.
very dangerous.
Yeah, I don't think that could happen.
Let's pray that it won't.
Too much power.
Much too much.
Definitely OP'd.
I guess you'd be able to smell them, right? Like regardless of their shape.
That would be a definite help.
I guess you could just assume the shape of things that are smelling.
But if they're a changeling, do you think they could change the smell too?
Perhaps.
Ooh. That's
interesting.
It's so
terrifying.
overpowered. I don't think we could imagine it in this show here.
Now, while we're talking about changelings, I have a friend. His name's Isaiah Kafka, and he was very adamant about telling me that he was not a changeling and to say that on the radio. And I think that's very suspicious.
It's very suspicious.
That certainly is.
Do you know? Does anyone know of ways to identify if someone's a changeling without any sort of expensive technology? Connor?
Well, first off, I have to disagree. I saw him changing forms in the back room just the other day.
For those of you who don't know, we actually work together. Me, Connor, Keith, and Isaiah.
That's exactly
So he
right.
was changing forms and not just clothing?
Yes, forms, physical form.
What did he turn into?
A bear.
A bear?
Interesting.
Was it a very large bear, a small bear, polar bear?
It was very large.
I have one quick question before we go to another break. So you're talking about a man who transformed into a bear, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Have you noticed the correlation between the moon and his changes?
Could it be a werebear?
Could it be a werebear?
A werebear?
That is possible. He may not, in fact, be a changeling. He may be a separate kind of monster.
Yeah, werebear or werewolf.
It's so hard in this field, you know. There's all these crossovers. It's so hard to know exactly what you're looking at.
It's very difficult. You really have to find someone that specifies in a certain area.
That's why we're professionals, and that's why we're here to help you guys out.
Yeah.
So all we know is that he changes into a bear, and that's it. That's it.
Are you sure you saw him as a bear, or was it it clear what he was changing into and what he was?
Yeah, literally a black bear.
Okay, a black bear.
Did you see him mid-transformation?
I did.
Was it like Animorphs?
It was exactly like that, actually, yeah.
Nice.
Interesting. Maybe they have a bear book that we can read at some point.
That would
We
be
can just look at
very
the cover.
helpful.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fascinating discussion, but regrettably I have to wrap it up to go to a commercial break. It is 20 of the hour, and you are listening to the Mystery Hour right here on 91.9 FM WMEB, Orono, Maine.
Clear my throat quietly.
So what are you doing with mystery?
I don't know.
Hi, I'm Murph. Ride along with me on the Blues Bus Thursday from 6 to 9. Right here on WMEB 91.9 FM.
It's probably like 10 minutes, right?
Close. Yeah.
Quality blues since 1991.
Yeah, me too. I'm still freezing. I think that's what's making me laugh is I'm like shivering. It's just
It's kind of chilly in here. Maybe they shut off the heat for Let it freeze up nice.
they're trying to shut us down.
You can't stop this movement.
Yeah. Oh, we said we're going past the time. Past one.
I had to take this off too because it's like rustling.
So we're doing mystery for mystery.
He said he wasn't to play the Super Mario World song until he did. What? He played the song in Super Mario World. He said he wasn't going to.
Yeah, we're on for mystery. History.
Yeah.
move on to witches now.
No, I didn't play the Super Mario World, so...
So we only have 20 minutes left.
We're going a little over one.
It was like rustling in the mic.
I feel like it picks up our feet more than it picks up our voice.
Yeah, it picks up like clearing my throat and like coat rustling.
Sensitive equipment.
And you got it working good.
Yeah?
That's really
Good.
Glad to hear it. Your family brought beautiful flowers.
Oh, really? Yeah. Nice. Glad he's dead now.
If we sit on the radio, we're like, and by the way, we're not actually supposed to be in here. Pranked. I hope he's actually listening.
Yeah, no, they're cool.
Assume you're ready for mystery.
What? I said he actually hasn't read that yet?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
Keith, you ready for the caucus?
Is that a woodland creature?
Hello, welcome back. I am Roy Michaels, and you're listening to the Mystery Hour on 91.9 FM WMEB, Orono, Maine. Tonight, our topic of intrigue is woodland creatures. On the break, you just heard a cover of a Cleaners from Venus cover by MGMT of the song Only a Shadow, a song that reminds us of the woodland creature Skinwalkers. But before we get into that, that's a whole different kind of animal. We're gonna give it over to Evan, who's gonna do this week's Mystery from History.
All right, tonight we have a really interesting story. We haven't talked a whole lot about witches yet tonight, so I guess we'll start it off with our mystery from history. So we're going to talk about the Bell Witch. So the story of the Bell Witch begins with the patriarch of the Bell family, whose name was John Bell. And in the 1800s, he moved his family to the Tennessee frontier. They had lived there for several years, but then they began to experience events that would be considered, what we would consider unnatural. And these started in about 1817 with the appearance of an animal that John Bell described as having a dog's body, but with the head of a rabbit. So he saw this creature in the cornfields around his home, and after scaring it away, just yelling at it, he didn't really think anything of it. He just thought, this odd creature, but, whatever, it's fine. So that night, the family began to hear strange knocks on the walls of their house, and reportedly saying that the rats were gnawing at their bedpost. It was so loud. It wasn't the rats, though. This continued, and the family began to hear faint whispers and wails coming from throughout the house. These weird sounds were accompanied by some very, very disturbing turns of events. The children began to complain of their blankets being torn off from them in the middle of the night. And the worst torments were directed towards the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy, who would have her hair pulled and brutally slapped. This usually left welts and handprints on her body, which was obviously of great concern to the Bells. Over time, the being strengthened. The whispers became full-bodied speech that ranged from scripture all the way to full conversation with the Bells and their guests. Word of the Bell Witch reached the ears of one of the most notorious politicians of that time period as well, Andrew Jackson. At the time, General Jackson was in the vicinity and took a few men to the Bell's house to discover the true nature of the so-called witch. Now, reports say that their cart halted right at the edge of the property, and they weren't able to move any further until the witch gave them permission to come on the land, and then the horses moved forward. They couldn't get the horses to move at all until the witch gave them permission. Now, once they were at the house, not much happened for a considerable amount of time, until one of the men experienced a huge seizure and was writhing on the floor in pain. And he left, and the men just kind of dispersed from the house and remained on the property, but in tents. The next day, they left, and they were seen cruising out of town as quickly as possible to get away from the Bell Witch, which is not something I really would have thought Andrew Jackson would have done. Anyway, the pinnacle of the witch's power occurred in 1820. John Bell had complained for over a year of facial twitching and a sore throat, but towards the end of the year he was completely bedridden. The entity would remove his shoes when he was trying to walk inside the house, and then smacked him repeatedly when he was having the seizures from this. Accompanying the torture was the shrill cry of the Bell Witch, chastising old John Bell. And on December 20th, 1820, he died. The family found a partially empty vial that they suspected was the culprit of John Bell's death. After having their cat drink the liquid, it promptly died. The entity then spoke up, screeching her delight at John Bell's death and also taking responsibility for giving him the poison. The witch continued to terrorize the family, reportedly attacking the descendants of the Bell family every 7 years, as she proclaimed to do. And the Bell Witch is still said to haunt the original property that the Bells own to this very day. And that's the end of the Mystery Hour.
Is that the end of the Mystery Hour or the Mystery from History?
That's the end of the mystery.
Can you do that? Can you just end it like
Yeah,
that?
no, we're ending the show now, actually.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, this is all.
That was a really good mystery from history. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
Now, I have a question about witches in general.
Certainly.
Can anyone become a witch? Or do they have to be born from witches? Or can any woman, or I guess not man, I guess woman, become a witch at any point?
Yeah, I believe a man could become a witch.
I think so too. I mean,
Would they not become a warlock?
That would be a warlock.
It'd be a warlock for sure.
But now we're tossing genders around. I think this is
they're essentially the same
If you want to be a
thing.
witch, you can be a witch.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, that's just false.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for some more Guess That Monster?
Yeah.
I've never been more ready.
Most definitely.
I wasn't until that.
Bring it on.
All right, let me hold on just one moment.
Of course. Can I just say, I love gongs.
Yeah, they're pretty great.
I do too. Yeah, it really gets me pumped up to get those points.
Yes, pumped up, but not too pumped up.
It's a great transition from one thing to another.
Precisely.
Too. Yeah, exactly.
If he gets you too pumped up, you get a little too rowdy, a little too sweaty.
It's like less than air horn, more than like conga drums.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Japanese or Chinese origin?
Ooh, I'm not sure.
I'm not positive
I don't
either.
know. I don't want to make any guesses.
Regional percussive noises.
I think we'll just.
We live in 2016. We shouldn't make guesses.
What?
That's why we said we weren't going to.
Yeah.
We're above that, Robbie.
He didn't do that.
Are you implying that I should look it up on the internet?
Yeah, we're in the middle of
Because
the
I
radio
try,
show, Robbie.
I try to stay away from anything that's connected
All right,
worldwide.
next question.
Oh, we are
All
ready.
right, let's go.
There it is. All right, nice.
This creature lives in North America, and it's a quadrupedal omnivore. Yes, Connor?
Is it a ghoul?
It's not a ghoul. Again.
Are you gonna ask ghoul for everyone?
That's honestly what I thought it was.
Again, we should leave
It's a
the
good
ghoul
one.
talk to
Rob.
Keith.
Yes, Rob.
Is it possibly a werewolf?
No, but good guess.
I figure in its human form he would eat salads.
Yes, Evan.
Is it a Jaccara?
It is not a Jaccara,
All right.
but we'll get to that,
Okay, good.
perhaps. Next 10. It was named by Lewis and Clark. It's not a very good hint, so I'm going to give you a second one. It hibernates for 5 to 7 months of each year.
This is a very challenging one.
The common brown bear?
That's foolish.
Close. Yes, Rob?
Is it the
Rob for the win?
Tasmanian devil?
It's not the Tasmanian devil. I said it pertained to North America. You are way out of your element. Sorry. Keith?
Okay, so is it close to a brown bear in size, shape, color? What are we talking? Can we get a size specific?
Is a brown bear, but slightly larger.
Is it a werebear?
No.
It is not a werebear. Not Isaiah Kafka.
Connor?
Is it a grizzly bear?
It is a grizzly bear. You are correct.
Very good job, Connor.
Nice.
Thank you. That's 100 points for us.
Grizzly bear.
I did not realize you could give out points, Connor.
I just know the rules.
That's not paranormal.
Is it not,
Who's
Robbie?
asking? Next question. This is a woods spirit that appears in the legends of Algonquin peoples along the Atlantic coasts and Great Lakes region. It is said to only be visible from the front because it is too thin to be recognized in the wood from the side. Yes, Joseph?
No, I do believe this is a Wendigo.
That is correct.
They're extremely dangerous creatures.
Very
Absolutely.
dangerous. Do you know about the Wendigo's cannibalistic origins?
I'm not entirely sure about them. They actually terrify me, and they're one of the few paranormal things I try to stay away from.
Well, absolutely, and I don't blame you. The Wendigo is often associated with cannibalism. It is believed that a human who consumes the flesh of another would turn into this creature and be doomed to eat the flesh, but in beast form.
Terrifying stuff.
Absolutely, and some believe that Wendigos can actually shapeshift.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it limited to anything, or can they just shapeshift into whatever they choose?
It's usually people, I think, let me ask the next question.
All right.
I'll answer your question. All right, this next creature is a Navajo legend. And can transform into any animal it wishes. I thought you guys for sure would have jumped on it based on that first hint.
No,
it is different than a Wendigo. Any animal it wishes. Person, human, bear.
Again, it sounds like Animorphs.
Could it be an animorph?
Forget Animorphs. Connor.
Is it a changeling?
Not a changeling. Same concept. I'd say this is more nefarious. This creature is said to feed on the fear of those who make eye contact with it.
Is this a goat person?
Yes, I guess it would be considered a goat person. This is a skinwalker, very similar to the Goatman legends.
Excellent. Do we get half points?
I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
This isn't a charity. This is the most prestigious
Horseshoes, hand grenades.
bit on late night radio.
Okay.
Well, can I still guess?
Yeah, can Connor steal?
Yeah, you know the answer though, right? You heard me say that.
Goatman for the steal.
Connor gets it.
Yes, it's like 200 points.
The problem was Keith said goat person instead of goat man.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe there's such thing as a goat woman.
So would a goat man just assume the identity of a female and just still be a goat man?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Changelings are very... They can be very confusing when talking about... they're just extremely confusing. It's hard to tell what they actually do with their victims, too. To this day, I have no idea what a goat man does with a victim. I know that once they're infiltrated the camp, or wherever they're infiltrating, that they do not harm anyone. Does anyone know what the goat man does with the initial victim?
I really don't know. I've heard many different possibilities. Probably the most nefarious is that the goat man puts its victim into a catatonic state and drags it, hides it somewhere, maybe in a pile of leaves, in a hollowed out tree, inside the trunk of someone's car, wherever it can stash away a sleeping person. Yes, Robert?
Since we're on the topic, could someone just quickly explain for our audience exactly what the Goatman is and how the Goatman stalks its prey?
Keith?
Well, I'm no expert, but I have read a fair few tale. Long story short, the Goatman, or the Goat Person, whichever you presume, is a forest entity that is capable of presuming the identity of another person, and in doing this, they will infiltrate one's group and act like a human. And their goal, as Mike said, or as Roy said, was to just gain nourishment from fear. The idea that your friend is not actually your friend is pretty terrifying. You know, someone steps away from the campfire for an hour or two, they're gone, they come back. How do you know it's them? What is the telltale sign that it's even your friend still?
Yeah, I mean, Goatman, or Goatman or Goat Person, excuse me, does have certain tales that can be studied and realized when trying to decipher which member among your camping group is in fact a woodland creature. The Goatman is sort of, or Goat Person, I keep doing it, seems unaccustomed to the form that it possesses. It often hunches around, it lurches, like it's silently laughing to itself. Kind of a vibrating motion. It's very spastic. Its arm movements are very dynamic, hard to predict, but also robotic. And the Goatman can actually impersonate other people, but to do this, it takes time. It has to listen to the person and sort of form its voice. And often, in most of the terrifying Goatman stories I've read, the authors, the victims in the situation, could hear someone pounding on their camp door that sounded like sort of a cat in a fight. There's this screaming fox trying to articulate words that sounded like their own friends. And usually the Goatman will request horrendously bad ideas. For example, if you're hanging out with one, he or she will often look to you and say, "Hey, let's go in the forest." And you don't want to do that. They try to get their victims into the forest to grow their numbers, but no one knows why.
Now, what do you do if someone is identified in your group as a Goatman or a Goat Person?
Well, first, let me interrupt you. It is 1 o'clock, and you're listening to the Mystery Hour. I'm Roy Michaels, and it's on 91.9 FM WMEB Orono, Maine. Usually at this time we conclude, but we had some trouble getting into the studio, so we're going a little bit over tonight. Joseph, what was your question?
Once a Goatman or Goat Person has been identified in your group, what is the best course of action?
Robert?
Yes, I've heard the best course of action at that point is to get out of town. Seeing as how there are no known records of anybody fighting the Goatman or Goat Person and winning. So if you can, escape. And if you need to, use your friends as bait.
Use your friends as bait. You heard it here first.
No, what do you do? So, the friend that has already been taken, is he already gone? Or she?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Most Goatman legends I've heard never really resolve. More than often, people suspect that when they came back from their outdoor adventure, they accidentally brought their friend, who was acting weird, back into society, and that friend is in fact a Goatman that they've introduced to a more urban population.
Yep, the best way to check your friends, we do it every time we hang out, actually.
Of course.
But the best thing to do is to have a question and an answer, call and response, kind of a password to make sure the friends that you're with are really your friends and not skin changers or Goatmen or Goat people. I would also, speaking of unresolved issues, I just like to say another point of contention is what exactly a Goatman, Goat Person, or skin changer looks like when it's not in the form of another being.
Ooh, that's a good point.
In other words, it's its original form. What do you guys think that looks like? There are a few pictures floating around on the web, a lot of them quite scary. Thoughts?
If I can take this, if you guys don't mind.
Absolutely.
I've never actually seen the photos on the web, but I have always imagined something such as Baphomet. A bipedal man, human torso, goat legs, and a goat head. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
For sure, that is actually the visage that sort of appears in my mini Goatman nightmares. That is the sight that I am terrified by on an almost bi-weekly basis.
Did you say? I'm sorry. Did you say bi-weekly or weekly?
Bi-weekly. Yep.
Bi-weekly. Okay, that's not as bad as weekly, obviously.
Not as bad.
Almost half.
Pretty bad.
Half as bad.
Better than tri-weekly, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is that every 2 weeks or twice a week?
Oh no.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely every 2 weeks, right?
If I could just pause for a second. Evan, you were actually acting quite strange when we walked into the studio. So I have to ask you, what's your mother's maiden name?
Actually, why don't I ask you what my mother's maiden name is first?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, so why would that be a pertinent question?
Nice deflection, goat man.
Would you care to list the name of your first childhood pet, or perhaps your favorite elementary school teacher?
I certainly can, but I'm a little bit weary of doing that just because you guys don't even know the name of my first childhood pet.
Why won't he answer?
Well, what about your favorite elementary school teacher?
What's my email?
We can't reset your password unless you give us 3 of the 5 recovery questions.
Connor.
I'd like to point out that on our drive in here, Evan was quite irate, and that's just not the norm. So I have my suspicions.
I was certainly irate, but I can tell you why. Connor refused to take multiple turns on the way here because he didn't understand which way to go, and when we tried to give him directions, he actually wouldn't turn around. No. So this was kind of the problem.
Evan, could you please calm down? I feel like we shouldn't attack each other. I think Connor drove fine.
I must confess
you weren't actually in the car.
He did not drive fine.
He did not drive fine.
You never know when the CIA is after us for the truths that we're unfolding.
No, I've never actually been in a car where Connor did not drive fine. Can anyone say anything about that? Oh, sorry.
I believe Robbie had his hand up first.
So, Evan, when we met in 6th grade, what did we say to each other?
Hey, I heard you like Lord of the Rings too.
Yeah, he got me.
It's him.
Oh, it's him.
It checks out.
It's definitely him.
I'd like to backpedal a little bit. We're coming close to the end of the show, and we were just very contentious with one another, and I don't think that's something we should do on this program. And it really reminds me of something that I really wanted to get off my chest from last week. For those of you who listened to last week's episode on vampires, during the course of our investigation, some accusations were made towards Robert. I believe we all ganged up on him, reasonably so, and thought he was a vampire. And at the time, it seemed like a harmless joke. But
it was not.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, you had severe repercussions on social media. People unfriended you, people stopped inviting you into their house.
Yeah, even people who didn't believe I was a vampire still wouldn't invite me into their house, so I couldn't enter.
Yeah, and I think we owe you an apology. We did come over the other day, and we realized what we had done when we saw you extracting about a pint of your blood into various empty cans of Mr. Pibb. And it appeared that you had this elaborate blood testing kit bought from Amazon, and you would pour powder into each Mr. Pibb, and it fizzled if you were a vampire, but none of the cans fizzled. And at that point, we realized what a terrible mistake we had made. But, obviously, we were very aggressive, and I don't blame you for what you did next, but
I don't really remember the testing. It was a lot of Mr. Pibb.
It was a lot of Mr. Pibb, but you did
blood.
Dry swallow about 5 whole cloves of garlic.
Nothing happened, but
with no milk or water.
He didn't even throw up.
And so just the kind of take it back here. Hold on, let me just scooch up to you a little bit. Hold on. Actually, could you come closer? Robert?
What is it, Roy?
Could you come here, please? You mean so much to me, and the rest of us at the Mystery Hour team.
Why are your hands so cold?
From my heart to yours, I love you, Robbie King. Will you please forgive us?
No.
Alright, moving on. I have one more question for all of you that I've seemed to misplace at the moment.
While Mike is looking for that question, Keith, I think you have a few points of your own just to make real quick.
Yeah, I've got a few questions loaded up if you guys want to, talk about them.
I'd like to hear one.
All right, okay. Want to talk about Sasquatch? Or an unidentified pursuer?
Second one.
All right.
Yeah, second one sounds better.
Absolutely.
All right, so you're being pursued by an unannounced, unidentified entity whilst camping. You are with all of your friends, and it is between 12 and 3 a.m. It is pursuing you, and that is all you know. Where do you hide and why? Connor?
I think I'd go with up a tree. It's just there's not a lot of places to hide in the woods, honestly, and I'm a pretty proficient tree climber.
Very nimble. Robbie?
If it was me, I think what I would do is I'd get as far away as I could, and then I would lay down on the ground, cover my face in mud, and cover myself with leaves.
Okay, so you're going for like the full camouflage.
Yes.
Scent and all.
Similar to the end of Predator, which was semi-factual, obviously.
A lot of great lessons you can learn from woodland creatures in that film.
Yeah.
It worked, too.
I think so.
It did indeed. Now, Connor, you said you'd climb up a tree. What about, there's many creatures that they can climb almost as fast as they can run. How would you escape from the tree if need be?
I would swing from one tree to the other.
Ooh, that's very dangerous.
Well, it's not if you practice.
That's a good point. Everyone should practice any escape from any paranormal creature.
It'll save your life one day.
It will.
It has.
Mike, did you have your question ready?
Nope, I've appeared to have lost it in the ether.
That's okay. It happens.
That does happen.
Do we want to do one more?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, so following up the same question, you're still being pursued. You hear stuff moving down in the underbrush while you're up in your tree, Connor. You have to sleep, right? You're tired. You're dead tired. You have to sleep. Where do you sleep?
Probably right there up in the tree.
You just stay right up in there?
Yeah.
Right there.
All right. It's probably pretty comfy if you got like the right angle.
I do that sometimes just because I want to.
You're prepared.
It's also important to try and measure how fast the other creature is if it's going to be pursuing you for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
So you could like run a far away and count for how long it's going to get there, and then you can use that time to rest or eat or
like stamina battle.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Thank you,
Keith. I'm a little bit curious. What would you do in this situation?
To be completely honest with you, I'm lying somewhere between Robbie and Connor's answer. I think that if there weren't any trees nearby, I would certainly go for the mud. I think lying still, getting under something, covering yourself with leaves, and most importantly, covering your scent. Don't hide with someone either. Don't bring a partner while you're trying to hide.
So
I think that's a death trap.
Sardines approach.
Absolutely.
Very good hint.
So you'd suggest not sticking together with the people you're with?
No, I believe that like a larger group of people is just going to cause more attention.
Okay.
And if one of you gets caught, you're all going down.
So you would attempt to blend in with the tree's bark at the tree's trunk.
Oh, that would be great, yeah. If you had the gear available, absolutely.
Is it possible to get something that's pursuing you to run into another paranormal creature and have them sort of combat one another.
Battle it out. I think that's a great idea. If I guess the team of our size could absolutely 100% pull it off.
Of course, but we're professionals.
Yes.
Hey, who would win the fight? Sasquatch or a werewolf?
Sasquatch, without a doubt.
Probably Sasquatch,
Yeah.
It's multi-dimensional.
Those other dimensions are pretty strong.
Advanced technology.
They can teleport up behind them and sort of get them.
Yeah, and Sasquatch has, intelligence, whereas werewolf is just more of a feral beast once it has transformed.
What about a werewolf? Does a werewolf exist?
I don't think so.
I'm not entirely sure.
That'd be horrifying.
There are many undiscovered creatures still out there, so who knows?
Yeah.
Of course.
I do know that a Sasquatch could teleport its fist into the werewolf's chest and rip its heart out.
Yeah, it would be no contest.
I was actually thinking that the Sasquatch could push the werewolf into a wormhole that led to a universe where no moon existed, and then it would be Sasquatch versus man, and we all know how that ends up.
That's actually genius.
I think that's how werewolves originally got here, right?
Thanks. That's based on an original fan fiction I wrote.
Do you have a title, or is it a work in progress?
Sasquatch Boy.
I love it.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
That's going to be great. When does it come out? I'd like to read it.
It's a secret at this time.
Would you say it's a mystery?
I would.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of it that he gave me in advance, and it's really quite enlightening. Even as myself.
Why don't you tell me about it?
Listen, we're coming close to the end of the mystery hour, so I think at this point, what are some final arguments you would like to make on the woodland creatures? What would you like to impart on our listener?
Well, I think the biggest thing to get across is the woods are extremely dangerous, whether it's paranormal creatures or regular creatures. It's always better to go alone, not go alone, go with groups of people that know what they're doing. Practice getting away from paranormal creatures, whether it's climbing trees or camouflaging yourself. Robbie?
Yeah, I think it's important to go out with the right equipment. I know on my trips I never leave without my cloves of garlic, my silver stakes, my witch warding wardrobe, my buckets of salt, everything that I need to scare away any sort of beast. So be prepared, basically. Everyone should have their own kit prepared anyways, in case there's ever an emergency. We do live in Maine, 90% woods.
Yes, maybe next episode we could suggest what we could put in the kit. Or
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I think the first step, though, is identification, correct? Like, you have to identify what the beast is, and then at that point, you will assess what's in your kit and what you're going to use to
which tools
combat
apply
the
to the
creature.
situation.
Yeah.
Because if you put a wooden stake through a werewolf's heart, nothing's good going to come from that.
Yes, Connor?
I just want to say that you have to be willing to accept the risk involved, because there are some creatures out there that no matter what, you're just not going to get away from.
That's very true. Some creatures, they're just going to get you.
Yeah, thankfully, if anything should happen to any of us here in the Mystery Hour, we do have the capability to use a Ouija board or perhaps a ghost box to bring in your insight so we can always remain a concrete team.
Yes, and then we could actually get more insight on what happens in the afterlife.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Someone should get eaten by a Wendigo very soon.
I am willing. I'm really not doing anything tomorrow.
I'm willing to come this and be the cannibal. if you're willing, Joseph.
Absolutely. Anything for science.
That's how we learn.
It's the only way to learn.
Keith, if you wouldn't mind, I am wondering what another one of your points would be.
You want another question?
Yes.
All right. I guess here's a pretty good meta question to top off the night. What is the most threatening entity in the forest? And how do you prepare to minimize the risk?
A grizzly bear, don't go in the forest.
All right. I think that might win.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Because a lot of other woodland creatures can actually leave the forest.
Yeah.
Obviously, and they can adapt pretty well to urban environments. So, strictly woods area, it would probably be grizzly bear.
I think so.
Or forest fires.
It's not very supernatural, but it's big.
It could be supernatural, for all we know.
You know, it is true. Werewolves are only going to be there once a month. Goatmen aren't going to kill you, just scare you. What else? Wendigo's just going to possess you. A witch, you know, it's not guaranteed. It's not after you. Nothing is after you, except for a grizzly bear. Grizzly bear is after you.
Yes, and when I go in the woods, I know it's not safe. I love to carry around meats in my pockets, whether it's beef jerky, sausage. I love a good summer sausage.
Meat pies.
Yeah.
I also startle bear cubs whenever possible. If I see them alone, I'll just kind of give them a little tumble, you know, just
They're
roll.
very cute.
Yeah.
To just kind of knock around a little bit.
I love rolling those guys.
They're adorable.
I like to startle pretty much any animal I see in the woods. Just it toughens them up.
I would like to advise against doing that, guys.
Perhaps.
I agree with Rob.
I would not. If you're in the woods, next time you guys are in the woods, listeners, startle as many animals as you can.
It's a good way to assert your dominance. I think that's why most paranormal creatures try to startle us, because they want to scare us off than anything, because they know what happens when we get afraid of them. Keith?
If an animal doesn't react to you trying to spook it, it's probably a skinwalker of some sort.
Absolutely.
It'd be a good way to test.
That is a good way to test.
Any other closing thoughts?
I think it's just about it for my questions.
All right. Evan?
I think we're all good here.
Connor?
We've identified everything.
Yeah, I think we've got everything.
Oh, wait. We did promise our listeners the sound of a Sasquatch.
I think that's the best way to close out tonight.
That's very true.
Genius.
Hold on, listeners. We'll bring it right up. Now, just so you know, this was recorded by our technical specialist, Connor Spencer. And the quality's quite low. Connor, would you tell us a little bit about the story of when you got this recording?
Oh well, it's quite an old recording at this point. I was in my teen years, and I was in the Appalachians up in Canada. I remember saying something to the head of our team, like, "Oh, I'm feeling lightheaded," and I looked over, and they weren't paying attention to me. They were looking at the tree line, and I looked at the tree line, and there were just dozens of Sasquatches, or maybe Sascoids, dancing and screaming amongst the trees. And it ends up that they had been feasting on the fermented apples, and they had become drunk. And let me tell you, there's nothing more depraved than a drunken Sasquatch. And it was just a bloodbath, but luckily we got the recording.
Wow, that's chilling stuff. I hate to cut you off, but it is 20 past the hour. I'm going to go to a quick PSA. We're going to come back with the Sasquatch sound, and then we're going to conclude this hour of mystery. Again, I am Roy Michaels, and you are listening to the Mystery Hour, the number one and only late night paranormal paranormal talk show, right here on 91.9 FM at WMEB, Orono, Maine.
Goat man.
Chris, you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
M2.
Your comic book collection, the race car bed.
I can't control my laughter tonight. It's so bad.
How did you like me calling it?
It was really funny. I was about to totally explain it too, like as best as I could. He saved me, but I was gonna try. I love how Evan just called me out on the card.
Well, you guys are going to start attacking me. You're going to call everything. I was trying to switch that into Connor being a changeling. And
Were you really?
Yeah, not figuring out, not being able to figure out driving on that.
I'm glad Robbie let me get that story in real quick.
There you have it. As promised, that was a field recording of a Sasquatch. And that means that tonight's hour of mystery has come to an end. I would like to thank Officers Robitaille and Officer Bergdahl for letting us into the building this evening. The wonderful people at WMEB who let us do this show and help us out. And I would like to thank you, the listener, for tuning in. Again, I am Roy Michaels, and you've listened to the Mystery Hour on 91.9 FM at WMEB, Orono, Maine. And we're going to be passing the torch off to Robo DJ, a form of artificial intelligence with the benevolent purpose of playing wonderful music to all of you all night.
Thanks, Robo DJ.